Today, in 2022 recap third session, we are going to revise the current affairs for prelims with respect to the missiles in news. The first one is BrahMos extended version missile. So you know BrahMos is one of the most important missiles in India. It's a cruise missile, and in this particular missile, we had extended range, which means we are going to extend the range of BrahMos from previous 350 to 400 kilometers to 500 kilometer range. And this particular extended version has another variant also. We call it as long range, right? So BrahMos long range and extended range are similar. And this particular extended range has been tested through an air launch facility against a ship target. So it is basically an anti-ship missile, which is tested. So this is one important update. What we have BrahMos, you know, different types of BrahMos are existing. So that we will be discussing separately in the evolution of missiles chapter. Whereas here we are going to target only this particular extended range alone. The next important missile which was test fired last year was Prithvi second. It is a version which was upgraded from Prithvi the first, which is one of the most important missiles of India. And it is an indigenous missile, surface to surface missile, and a short range missile, which has a range between 250 to 350 kilometers. And this is a single stage liquid fuel missile. Okay, it can carry a warhead of up to a ton of kilograms. And this particular Prithvi second is one of the efficient missiles. We try to upgrade Prithvi 1 with Prithvi 2. And this Prithvi 2 is being upgraded into other missiles like Pralay, Prahar, Pralay, etc. Okay. So this is how the missiles are being upgraded. So this is as this was also tested last year. Right? Then comes the most important Agni series. This Agni series missiles were upgraded and tested in the last year. And of that, the most important is Agni Prime, which is an upgradation of Agni 1 and 2. And this is nuclear capable, the new generation advanced variant with a range of 2000 kilometers. This is a canisterized missile. That means you can launch it using a canister, right? So that is what we call it as canisterized missile. So you can launch it from multiple launchers, which is basically the advantage of canisterizing. You put it in a canister, and that will be used for launching from various launch pads. So it is a two-stage missile, and it can have a warhead of about 1.5 tons or 1,500 kilograms. The most important upgradation is that it have multiple warheads delivery, as well as it has a very good flying capability. Okay, so these are some of the upgradations what they had. And similarly, we had Agni 3, which is an intermediate range surface to surface missile, ballistic missile, similar to Agni 1 and 2, but the range is intermediate, that is 3,500 kilometers range, and it is acknowledged as one of the most accurate strategic ballistic missile of this class in the world. So this is making Agni 3 the a class in itself, and this was also test fired successfully. And another missile which was test fired was Agni 4, the technology demonstrator. And this particular missile was again an intermediate missile with a range of 4,000 kilometers, and it has a very good state-of-art avionics with electro-optical tracking system. It has upgraded 5th generation computer on board, and it is considered to be the most accurate with respect to the ring laser gyro based navigation. So navigation will be more accurate. It will be like a textbook launch kind of, and it also has micro navigation system. And the most important thing is that it is a re-entry missile. So it goes outside the atmosphere and re-enters within the atmosphere. And During re-entry, it can have a temperature difference of withstand a temperature difference of around 4,000 degrees Celsius. So that's one of the critical aspect of Agni 4. So Agni series, all these three missiles have been tested successfully. Then comes the most important anti-tank missile technologies. Almost we have upgraded many part of technologies in the missiles, and one important technology is the anti-tank. The base missile was NAG, what we had from the Integrated Guided Missile Development Program, which was launched way back in 1980s. And that particular NAG, the anti-tank missile, has been upgraded in variety of forms according to our need. Because the problem of India is that it has multiple borders with different nature. So we have tanks approaching us in the northwestern zones through our desert region. We have battle tanks which can approach us from the cold desert regions of Ladakh, or in the mountainous terrain what we have in the Arunachal region. So in all these aspects, we can expect battle tanks. So for that reason, we have different types of anti-tank missiles which have been developed. And the first upgradation what we have done and what we have repeatedly testing is Helena. It is an indigenously developed helicopter launched anti-tank guided missile. And this particular helicopter is going to be advanced light helicopter, what we call it as Rudra, which we have discussed in the previous recap session in the second series. So this particular advanced light helicopter, which has the turret guns and so on, so they are capable of handling Helena. And the most important feature of these anti-tank missiles are the fire and forget option. So once you lock that target, and it will when you fire it, you can just forget it, because it will have the thermal imaging, and now we have infrared imaging, IRR seeker, which is upgraded version in the thermal imaging sector, and one of the most advanced anti-tank missiles. So similarly, like Helena, we have another anti-tank missile. This is for 7-kilometer range, whereas for different variations of this particular range, we have for very short tactical range, we have laser guided anti-tank guided missiles with the range of 1.5 to 5 kilometers, which are less than that of Helena. This is going to be another important upgradation, where we have our battle tank Arjun, the main battle tank Arjun of India. From Arjun, you can launch the laser guided anti-tank missiles. And this is actually a multi-platform launch capability. And it is also having a fire and forget option with the radar seeker. And also it was one of the most important missiles, because in the battle tank where we have pitched battle, in very short range, we can target these tanks. And similarly, it is indigenous, which was contributed by DRDO and ARDE, High Energy Material Research Lab, Dehradun, and IRDE from Dehradun. So this is one important missile which has been recently tested. Another variant of this is man-portable anti-tank guided missile. So here, the army personnel will take it up to 2.5 kilometer range. It will be around 15 kgs to 20 kg weight, which can be easily carried over by the army personnel. And it is indigenously developed by DRDO. Again, low weight, fire and forget missile, canister type. Whenever we use canister type, we call it as soft launch, because it can be launched anywhere. So you can see the canister here. So this is what the canister kind of. And this is specifically maintained for our infantry and special forces called parachute forces, what we have. So they can airdrop themselves and launch a anti-tank missile on the field. So especially for Indian Army, we have this particular man-portable ATGM. Another one is the standoff anti-tank missile, the fourth generation missile, which is indigenously developed, an air-to-surface missile like Helena and variant of Helena. And this is for very long distance, that is of 10-kilometer range. Okay, so we have a millimeter wave seeker so that it can travel for a long distance, and it can be a fire and forget kind of where you can have this particular thing launched against a battle tank. So this we call it as SANT. Uh, uh, that is standoff anti-tank missile, right? So this particular four types of missiles are more important because when we have Ladakh issue, when we have other Doklam issue and various other issues, different types of anti-tank missiles have been put to use in this particular way. Clear? Fine. Then we have naval anti-ship missile. So this naval anti-ship missile, which we call it as NASM short range, which is just a 55 kilometers range with a warhead of 100 kilograms and a speed of less than 1 Mach, that is 0.8 Mach, which travels less than the speed of sound. And it is first test fired. So remember, this is important missile because we have test fired it for the first time indigenously by DRDO. This is done for at an altitude of 3 kilometers maximum. So it is basically for anti-ship missiles or anti-ship, anti-submarine kind of operation. And that's the reason why we have altitude maximum of 3 kilometers. And the range is much higher for these type of ships. It is going to be 55 kilometers. And these anti-ship missiles can be fired from the shore to the target in the sea. Okay, that is what we try to do. 55 kilometers up with a 3 kilometer height, that is altitude. Here we are going to replace these by that is Sea Eagle missiles by the NASM short range missiles, and they are going to be launched from the new multi-role helicopters which we have bought it from USA recently. So this is one important missile which is first time tested in India last year. Another important missile is the supersonic missile, and it is assisted torpedo system. That is, it is two set combined together. That is, one supersonic missile will be there. When you fire a missile, after a particular distance, it carries a torpedo, and that torpedo will be triggered. And that torpedo will be traveling for a range of 20 kilometers, right? And that is how we try to have. And these are long range anti-submarine missiles. So that is what we have, torpedo. So first we have a supersonic missile which travels, and then torpedo will go and attack the submarine. So this is a two-stage solid propulsion thing, and again canister-based missile. It can travel around 643 kilometers and carry a torpedo. The warhead will be a torpedo, and the torpedo will have a warhead of 50 kg, and that will go and hit the target, that is submarines. And this is one of the quick reaction system because we have a torpedo from the standoff distance. From a longer distance, we can have standoff in the sense we have it the launch pad in a safe distance, and we can target the enemy, and that we call it as standoff. So whether it is going to be the supersonic missile assisted torpedo system or the previous one, the SANT, what we have seen. So both are standoff distance missiles. Then another important variant what we have tested was submarine launched ballistic missiles, especially the K series or Kalam series missiles. And we have tested it recently, last year, indigenously developed by DRDO, and we are testing it from INS Arihant. So INS Arihant, it is a nuclear submarine, the first indigenous strategic strike submarine where the nuclear triad was completed by it. And in the K series, we have K4, we have K15. K4 is something which is 3,500 kilometers long range, what we have, and K15 or Sagarika is a range of 750 kilometers. So K series missiles were tested in the previous year from Arihant. So this is another significant submarine launch missile what we have. Subsequently, we had the most important missile the first tactical quasi-ballistic missile, first time test fired in India. It's very important. Pralay, as the name indicates, it can create a very high assault on enemies, and this is indigenous, short range, that makes it more tactical, and that's the reason why we call it as tactical. It is just 150. It can be used even for 150 to 500 kilometers range, and it has a solid propellant. So remember, Prithvi 2, which was its base, was a liquid propellant. Actually, liquid propellant is less sophisticated because you need to launch the missile after filling the liquid and so on, whereas solid propellant is going to be ready to shoot mode. So it is solid propellant rocket motor with a conventional warhead of 350 to 700 kgs, and it can travel up to 1.6 Mach. And this is one important, and that's what we call it as quasi-ballistic. So it will travel within the atmosphere, but in the ballistic mode, that the parabolic curve will be there. But in this ballistic mode, it will travel at a speed of 1.6 Mach, that is supersonic speed. So you can achieve a supersonic speed, and you are going to have a ballistic form with a heavy warhead and so on. So this is one of the most important and very promising missile for India. And that's the reason why we call it the first tactical quasi-ballistic missile, and it has been successfully test fired recently. And this Pralay, you can see it's a derivative of Prahar, and Prahar is a derivative of Prithvi, right? So that's how we had Prithvi, Prahar, and Pralay, right? So Pralay and BrahMos to form the crux of rocket force in India. So we have two things. One is rocket force in India. Another one is strategic forces command. So the rocket force command will consist of Pralay and the BrahMos, whereas our strategic missiles are others which are capable of nuclear weapons and so on. So this you can compare with China's Dongfeng 12 or Russian Islander missile, which has been recently used in Ukraine war, right? So one of the important missiles, Pralay. Then comes the ballistic missile defender system, where we have an interceptor called AD-1, right? Again, it is first test fired now. You know that we have developed a ballistic missile system, defense system called Prithvi missile system, and Ashwin advanced missile defense system. So in that, we are upgrading that like AD-1. And here it is a long range ballistic missile interceptor. Both low exo-atmospheric and endo-atmospheric interception is possible. That is, exo means outside, endo means inside. Inside the atmosphere, it is possible. And it is a two-stage indigenously developed missile, which our interceptor, which can be used against 5,000 kilometer range missiles. That is a very long range missiles can be intercepted by these AD-1 missile, which is very, very significant for India. You can compare it with the S-400 Triumph, which we have purchased now from Russia, against with all odds. And this can be in future when we are having a very good success rate in these missiles. We can replace S-400, or as an addition, we can have these AD-1 and AD-2 as the interceptors, which can be indigenously done. So these are some of the important missiles which were in news. And for further details about our mentoring programs, you can reach us in these numbers. Thank you.